Story 1. Some background info: I am a freshman in high school. I have ADHD and dyslexia, so I am placed in a class called Math Plus. Math Plus is a class meant for someone who needs extra help in math. I have it 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and regular math every day. My math class is twice as long on the days I have Math Plus. Now on to the story. So I have a quiz on Friday, a day where instead of having Math Plus, I have study hall, and the quiz I have is a group quiz. It sounds nice on paper until you realize my class is full of people with ADHD or AD. So I was placed in a group of 4, including me, where the people in my group didn't do all the work / I wanted to get a good grade on this quiz or else my parents would be pissed at me. During the quiz, my group starts to talk about something else. I completely understand it because no one likes math, but they did very little work. I had to carry everyone on my back blind because I didn't know what I was doing. It's not because I didn't study, but because the subject we are learning is as if you took addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, and told them to go mess themselves up. Luckily, we had one person in my group who knew what he was doing but refused to do any work because he was tired, because he took a history test earlier, and just talked to everyone else in my group. The teacher told us that she would be grading mine. I started to ask my group for help, but they only helped me on 1-2 problems. I got pissed. I was planning where I would erase all the answers and put them in as 0, because my grade in math can take a hit from a failed quiz and my parents would understand. In the back of my head, I thought it was not that good of an idea because there are times where my parents are not that reasonable at times, and I am too nice to give everyone in my group a terrible grade. So I had to use my final resort: snitching. I hate snitching on people, but there are times where I feel it to be necessary to snitch, and I have all the answers, so they are screwed. It was the end of my regular math period, and I didn't have Math Plus afterwards, so I told her I did all the work and my group didn't help me whatsoever. She yelled at them. One of them said he did work, but told him back she remembers him not doing anything. She made me separate the group and gave me extra time on it, cutting into my study hall, which is what I was fine about. I only had 2 questions left while the rest of my group had to finish an entire page. I hate snitching, but I had to do it because I don't want them to get credit for my work that I did. Story 2. Hey guys, this is my first time posting here after being a long-time reader, so please be kind. I'm on mobile and typing pretty fast since I'm on my break. If there are any mistakes, I'll fix them later. This happened on Saturday, and the whole story finally came to an end today. I hope you all enjoy this. So, I've been working at this big retail store for about 6 months now, and overall, it's been a great experience. I had a coworker who was one of the best people to be around. He always had a great sense of humor and could brighten up anyone's day, no matter how tough things were. Just an all-around great guy. Unfortunately, he had been very sick lately because of diabetes, and his kidneys kept failing due to the medication he had to take. When I came into work today, I found out that he had passed away, and his daughter had found him at his home. It was heartbreaking and incredibly shocking. I completely broke down crying. We'll call him G. I work in the photo center of the store, and later that day, G's daughter came in and asked me for help scanning some photos. When I saw pictures of G when he was younger, smiling that same smile we all loved, it really hit me hard. I helped her make copies of the pictures for the funeral while she stood beside me crying. She asked me how much everything would cost, and I told her not to worry about it because I would handle it. It was around $32, not much, but I wanted to help in any way I could since I knew she already had so much to deal with. She started crying even more, and I gave her a hug. Then I started crying again and told her the photos would be ready in about 15 minutes. At that moment, there was another customer at the counter who had been waiting patiently for his pictures. He noticed what was going on and gently asked if everything was all right. I told him that the store had just lost a beloved coworker who had been here since the store first opened. He gave his condolences, paid for his pictures, and left quietly. Then came the rude customer of the story. He walked up to the counter, took one look at me, and asked, "Are you crying?" I wiped my tears and apologized, explaining that I had just lost a good friend and coworker and that I was printing his funeral photos. Before I could even ask how I could help him, he interrupted me and said, "You need to toughen up and do your job. Now help me since I'm a customer." I was stunned and confused. "I'm sorry. Are you being serious?" I asked. Tears were still streaming down my face. I already have bad anxiety, and this man's attitude was only making it worse. He continued mockingly, "Oh, boo-hoo, I'm a paying customer, and you need to wipe those tears and help me find a cord for my computer." He even made fake crying gestures with his hands and exaggerated his face like a child pretending to cry. Now completely upset and shaking, I told him, "I'm not helping you, sir. I'm calling my manager, and you can deal with him. I will not help someone who is mocking me for grieving over a coworker's death." Here's the worst part: he had literally been standing nearby earlier and had watched me help G's daughter with the funeral photos. He overheard our entire conversation about G. He sneered, "I don't care about G, and I don't care that he's gone. I'm alive and a paying customer. You will help me right now." At that point, he was standing far too close for comfort, and I honestly felt afraid he might do something. Thankfully, the kind customer from earlier had come back into the store and stepped between us, moving me further away from the aggressive man. "Sir, step away from her," he said firmly. "She hasn't done anything wrong, and you need to calm down. She has every right to refuse service to someone who is treating her like that." By then, my manager arrived and asked me what was going on. While I was explaining, the rude man tried to peek over my manager's shoulder, staring right at me the entire time. His voice grew louder and more aggressive, and when he got close enough that I could smell alcohol on his breath, my manager pushed him back and told me to go to the break room to calm down. I was shaking all over and terrified. That man had genuinely scared me to the point that I didn't even want to leave the store later. Management escorted him out while he continued mocking everyone for grieving over our coworker. About 10 minutes later, my manager came to find me. He said the man had been banned from the store and issued a trespass notice, meaning he couldn't come back. The kind customer who had stepped in earlier had also called the police, and it turned out the rude man had driven to the store while intoxicated. The police found him at the nearby gas station and charged him with driving under the influence. However, it didn't end there. About 20 minutes later, the same man came back to the store, claiming he had dropped his wallet and needed to go to the photo lab to look for it. Fortunately, I had been sent home for my lunch break, so I was already at home with my husband. The store called the police again, and he was arrested for trespassing. Even after that, I still felt unsafe for a while, so for the next week or so, someone from work walked me to my car at the end of each shift. When my manager was escorting me to my car one day, I asked him what kind of vehicle the man drove so I could keep an eye out for it. He showed me a picture of a white truck with a company logo on it, and I immediately recognized it. My dad is the foreman at the job site the truck belonged to. He was literally that man's boss. Awesome. I called my dad right away and told him everything that had happened, giving him a full description of the man. My dad was furious. Now, my dad can be an intimidating person when someone crosses a line, and he's very well connected at his job. The man didn't stand a chance. My dad quickly identified who he was, called his supervisor, and got permission to personally fire him. Within just 3 days, this man managed to get banned from the only large retail store within a 45-mile radius, arrested for driving under the influence, jailed for trespassing, and fired from his job, all because he mocked the wrong employee at the wrong time. My motto has always been, "You get what you give." And in this case, he truly did. Story 3. So, for a bit of context, I went out with a boy between the ages of 17 and 21. I honestly loved him at the time and genuinely thought we had a future together. About 1 year in, he was in college while I was preparing for my leaving certificate, which is the equivalent of high school finals in Ireland. Problems started to appear when I found out he had been unfaithful to me during a college night out. I confronted him, and he admitted it. He said it was a massive mistake and gave me a whole speech about how sorry he was. I was 18 and, unfortunately, took him back. After that, he became very possessive, and I somehow lost myself because I was terrified of him leaving me again. Our relationship turned extremely toxic. I lost a lot of friends, and my confidence was at an all-time low. Things became verbally and physically abusive, and even though I had started college, I rarely attended classes because I felt so low. He would constantly tell me that I would never amount to anything. At that point, we were living together, and he was in his final year of college. He asked me to help him with his thesis, and since I was genuinely interested in the subject, I agreed. That help turned into me writing his entire thesis, even though I wasn't studying the same degree as he was. The day I completed it and emailed it to him, he immediately posted on Facebook saying he was done with college. I noticed a girl leaving kisses under his post and decided to confront him about it while we were on our way home from shopping. He broke up with me right there, and then while still driving, he pushed me out of the car and left me on the road. Thankfully, I was close to my mother's house, so I was able to call her. We never went to the police, but his parents found out and were furious. They kicked him out, and he lost a lot of friends once everyone knew what had happened. After that, I struggled a lot emotionally. I ended up moving across the country and pursuing a different degree. That's where I met my now husband. 8 years later, I'm doing really well and working in recruitment. Our company has clients worldwide, and I truly love my job. One day, while working, I came across an application that came in through a familiar email address. When I opened it, I immediately recognized it was him. He had applied for a graduate campaign we were running for school leavers. I knew from friends and family that he was back in my hometown, working at a phone repair shop, and that he had 3 children with the same girl he had cheated on me with. I was surprised he applied for a position that paid €19,000 a year, especially since he had a wife and kids to take care of. Still, I decided to review his CV and give it a fair look. Well, it didn't take long to notice the lies. He clearly didn't understand how references work, or that falsifying information on a CV is taken very seriously. He had listed himself as a manager at 3 different stores in my hometown businesses, whose real managers I actually knew personally, and even claimed to have founded one of them from scratch. To make matters worse, he supplied fake reference names and used his brother's number as one of the contacts. I immediately sent him a polite rejection email. My work email had my name, so he knew it was me. Instead of accepting it, he decided to challenge the rejection, insisting that I had a personal grudge against him. He wrote that I was a bitter ex trying to ruin his chance at a better life. My manager called me in for a meeting about it. I was honest and told him straight up that the CV was full of false information. While my manager believed me, we didn't yet have solid proof. He told my ex that his application would only move forward if his references checked out, and he assigned me the task of verifying them. I called the first reference his brother and played along for a while, pretending to be neutral. Eventually, his brother slipped and asked if he was speaking to me by name. I laughed and said yes. He immediately realized he had messed up. I kept it professional, thanked him for his time, and ended the call politely. After that, my manager sent an email to my ex, informing him that his references didn't check out. My ex never replied to him, but instead sent a strongly worded message to my personal email address. I didn't respond. I guess that's karma. The same girl he once told would never amount to anything ended up being the one who rejected him from a €19 zzzs in a year job. Story 4. Before the global health crisis, I worked at a large warehouse club in the customer service department. The job was great, and most members were genuinely wonderful to interact with. However, every now and then, someone would show up who was so entitled, it made me question how they viewed the people around them. Based on the way they treated me and others, I could only assume they didn't even see us as human beings. To them, we were simply lifelike machines built to ring up their items and load their carts. one particular incident really drove that point home. It happened on a super busy Saturday when it was absolutely pouring outside. Members were practically fighting for parking spots near the door, then sprinting toward the entrance as if their lives depended on it. As a courtesy on rainy days, we always had someone stationed at the front of the cart return area to dry off carts before members took them. That day was so hectic that members were coming in faster than I could dry carts for them. Most people were patient and kind about it. They waited in line for a dry cart, and almost everyone thanked me. A few, who either didn't care or were in too much of a hurry, just grabbed wet carts and moved on. One member, in particular, rushed up and grabbed a wet cart from behind me. Sometimes, carts get jammed together, usually when the child's seats get tangled or when the carts are slightly bent from damage. This member happened to grab one of the warped ones, and it dragged another cart with it. He tried to dislodge it. He yanked, twisted, and shook them violently. Then he turned to me and demanded, "Help me get these carts separated." I offered him a dry one instead, thinking that would solve the issue. But no, he wanted that specific cart for some reason. I put down my drying rag and tried to pry the two carts apart. It was like trying to separate two bulls locked by their horns. They just wouldn't budge. I examined the metal flap that allowed the carts to nest together and spotted where it had snagged. I reached in to ease it free, using my other hand on the lip of the second cart to gain leverage. The member grew impatient. "Come on, I'm in a hurry," he snapped. Apparently deciding I was too slow, he reached out to give the front cart one last tug. At that exact moment, I loosened the second cart, and the front cart sprang forward, slamming my thumb between it and the stationary cart. I heard a popping sound right before the pain hit me. I pulled my hand back and managed to hold back the kind of language that would have gotten me in trouble. Instead, I let out an awkward burst of frustration, sucking sticks of saffron on a ship. My supervisor witnessed it and still says it's his favorite outburst to this day. The member just stared at me like I was overreacting. "There, all I needed was a cart. Was that so hard?" he said. I was cradling my hand, which already looked oddly shaped, and managed to say, "Sir, I think you just broke my finger." He shrugged, huffed, and simply walked into the warehouse completely unconcerned. It was as if he forgot I existed the moment he turned away. My supervisor, thankfully, had seen the entire thing. He was far more worried about me than about the member. He quickly pulled me aside and radioed for ice. Fortunately, or maybe unfortunately, I have a very high pain tolerance. It wasn't my first dislocation, and I knew from experience that the fastest way to stop the pain was to reset the joint myself. So, I fiddled with my awkwardly dangling thumb until I felt it click back into place. It was swollen and already turning a deep shade of purple. My supervisor then sent me inside to fill out an incident report, while another group of employees went searching for the member to have him removed from the store. In the end, I got an extra day off and a rather darkly funny story to tell about the time an entitled customer dislocated my finger just to get his favorite shopping cart. Story 5. I'm a 23-year-old man, a middle child living in the United States, and I come from an unusually large family. There are 10 of us in total. To be clear, this family was formed through adoption and marriage. So while I have 5 brothers and 4 sisters, 3 of them are step-siblings, 1 is a half-sibling, and 3 are cousins we adopted. My mom is 47, my stepfather is 56, and they have been married for almost 20 years. We never had a lot of money growing up, but we managed to scrape by. We're all doing mostly all right now, and that's not to say my parents didn't do their best to raise us well. None of us have ever been arrested or gotten into any kind of legal trouble, and most of us have since broken off into smaller groups, living on our own. I currently live with a stepbrother and one of my cousins in an apartment in my town, and have been here since I was 19. At this point, I've mainly been an observer of this recently developed behavior from my mom, and it's quite concerning to say the least. When I say we never had much money, I truly mean it. My parents worked very hard to raise us, but weren't financially responsible enough to stay out of constant debt. We were often contacted by collection agencies and had possessions repossessed. This hasn't changed much since we became adults. You would assume that, with fewer kids to raise, my parents would finally find financial stability and start saving money, but that hasn't happened. For the past few years, my mother and sister have started acting more like high school best friends forever. They travel together constantly, go on concert tours, and spend weeks away from home, leaving my two cousins by themselves. While this might not sound like a big issue on its own, two of them are disabled and require supervision. One frequently experiences severe seizures, and the other is developmentally disabled. My stepdad is home every day but works as an electrician and doesn't return until late in the evening, leaving long periods where they're unsupervised. What really bothers me is my cousins being left alone like that. I care about them deeply, they're essentially my siblings at this point. I'm frustrated that my mother refuses to get the one with seizures on proper medication, claiming that there isn't a neurologist in town who can prescribe him the necessary treatment. That claim is completely untrue. On top of that, my family owns a large number of pets, including birds, cats, dogs, and reptiles that are left alone for long stretches and don't receive the proper care they need. I visit when I can, but I'm currently working full-time and attending college, so my time is limited. It's the same for most of my siblings who have moved out. Some have become so alienated by all of this that they'll likely never step foot in that house again. All of my siblings, except for my sister and youngest brother, have voiced concerns about what's been going on. My disabled cousin who lives with me is also very upset because my mom owes him $1,000. My grandparents are also owed money, but they can't do much to help since they're both in poor health. Another thing that worries me is my youngest sibling, the only one still attending high school, who joins my mom and sister on these long trips and ends up missing about 8 to 10 weeks of school every year. It got so bad that a truancy officer had to get involved. There's also other concerning behavior, such as a total disregard for responsibility at home. Last year, my mom went to Disney World with a few colleagues and forgot to pay the electric bill, which resulted in the family home being without power for 2 weeks. I had to bring some of my siblings over to my place to shower or sleep because we live in the South, and the heat can be unbearable during the summer. On top of that, my mother recently financed her dream car, a Mustang, even though it's not realistically affordable at over $600 a month. At the end of the day, I can't help but think this might be some sort of midlife crisis. The excessive vacations instead of saving for retirement, the trade-in of a practical car for a sports car, and other questionable decisions that I'd rather not go into detail about, all of it points in that direction. However, whenever I bring up my concerns, they're always brushed aside. I don't know what to do anymore. My stepdad seems to be fine with everything, but at this rate, he's going to be working and renting the family house until the day he passes away. What can I do to address these concerns and get past the gaslighting? Any suggestions or advice would be greatly appreciated. After everything that's happened, I've reached a point where I genuinely don't know how to help anymore. I've tried talking to my mom calmly, tried bringing up the issues one by one, and even tried approaching her from a place of understanding instead of criticism, but it never seems to get through. Every time I express worry, it somehow turns into me being judgmental or ungrateful. She'll say things like, "You don't understand what it's like to be my age," or "I deserve to enjoy my life after everything I've done for you kids." I get that she's worked hard for most of her life. I really do. But the way she's going about it feels reckless and unfair to the people she's responsible for. It's strange because, growing up, she was the one who always emphasized responsibility and self-control. She used to lecture us about the importance of being accountable and keeping our priorities straight. Now, it's like she's doing the exact opposite of what she once taught us. The vacations, the expensive car, the unpaid bills, it's all adding up, and the burden keeps falling on the rest of us to pick up the slack. What makes it worse is the emotional distance she's creating within the family. My siblings used to visit all the time. We'd have family dinners, help around the house, and spend holidays together. These days, it feels like everyone's walking on eggshells whenever her name comes up. Some of them don't even want to talk about it anymore because they're just exhausted from the drama. My stepdad tries to stay neutral, but it's pretty clear he's tired too. He's a good man, but he's been enabling this behavior by not setting any real boundaries. He works long hours as an electrician, comes home completely drained, and then still tries to pretend everything's fine. I can tell he's holding in a lot of frustration, but he's the type to avoid conflict, even if it means sacrificing his own comfort. Then there's my younger brother, the one still in high school. I'm honestly worried about his future. Missing weeks of school for vacations isn't doing him any favors. It's not just about falling behind in class. It's about what kind of message this sends to him. It teaches him that responsibility can wait, that fun comes first, and that there aren't any real consequences for neglecting obligations. That's not the kind of lesson any teenager should be learning. As for my cousins, it breaks my heart to think of them sitting at home without proper supervision or care. I've had to drop by on my lunch breaks just to check if they've eaten or taken their medication. Sometimes I find the pets without fresh water or food. It's not out of cruelty. I know that much. It's neglect through distraction. My mom just isn't seeing how much harm her absence is causing. I've even tried suggesting solutions like hiring a part-time caregiver for my cousins, setting up automatic bill payments, or getting a financial advisor to help with budgeting, but every suggestion is brushed off. She'll either say it's unnecessary or that I'm trying to control her life. It's not about control. It's about stability, safety, and making sure no one gets hurt because of neglect or carelessness. My grandparents have expressed similar concerns, but they're elderly and in poor health, so there's only so much they can do. My siblings and I have tried having a family meeting to discuss everything, but my mother refused to attend. She said we were ganging up on her. That was the last time most of my siblings tried to intervene. At this point, I'm torn between continuing to help and stepping back entirely. On one hand, I can't just sit by while my cousins and younger brother suffer because of my mom's poor choices. On the other hand, I'm emotionally drained from trying to fix things that I have no real control over. The situation has also affected my own mental health. There are days when I feel guilty for not doing more, and other days when I feel angry for having to take on responsibilities that shouldn't be mine in the first place. It's an exhausting cycle that doesn't seem to end. When I talk to friends or classmates about it, they always say something like, "You can't save everyone," or "Sometimes you just have to let people face the consequences." I know they're probably right, but it's hard to accept that when it's your own family. I'm scared that if things keep going this way, something serious will happen, like my cousin having a medical emergency when no one's home, or the house falling further into disrepair. There's also the financial side. With my mother taking on unnecessary expenses and ignoring bills, I wouldn't be surprised if they lost the house someday. My stepdad is doing his best, but he can only carry so much of the load. In my heart, I believe my mom is going through a midlife crisis. I just wish she could see the damage it's causing before it's too late. Maybe one day she'll realize that living recklessly in the name of freedom isn't true happiness. It's just running from responsibility. For now, all I can do is keep checking in when I can, help my cousins where possible, and protect my own peace in the process. I'm hoping someone out there might have advice on how to reach someone who's lost sight of what really matters. How do you help a parent who's too stubborn to admit they need help? How do you get through to someone who refuses to see that their new lifestyle is hurting the very people who love them most? Any thoughts or suggestions are welcome. I just want my family to feel whole again. Story 6. Backstory. This happened many years ago when I was manager at a popular sandwich shop. Because it was considered a starter job, a lot of our employees were high school-age students. Most were great employees, students looking to get some work experience and money before going off to college. A few of them were not so great. One such worker was a kid I'm going to call M. M was a problem from day one. He clearly didn't like working. If you told him to do something, he would find any excuse not to do it or avoid it altogether. He would talk smack to customers, and we often just put him on kitchen duty, which he was terrible at. He constantly showed up late, or didn't show up at all. He lasted about a month before I finally had to let him go. The story. This happened about 6 months after M stopped working for us. It was a typical weekday. I was working alone. It was a very slow shop, and had a line of about 3 people. Enter the entitled mother. He marched straight up to the till, bypassing the line. I need to speak to the manager. Me, addressing her from the other end of the counter, where I'm still making a sub for the current customer. I'm the manager, ma'am. I'm happy to help you in a second if you don't mind waiting. This is an emergency. I need help now. I excuse myself from the current customer and approach her. What's wrong, ma'am? Do you have an employee named M working here? We used to. He is no longer with us. I need his phone number right now. Note, due company policy at my work, we are not allowed to give away any personnel private information of our employees to non-family members, excepting for true emergencies. Are you family? No. Why do you need it? What kind of emergency is it? She goes on to a long, rapid story about how her son and M are best friends. She says that M is a bad influence. He has gotten her son in trouble in the past, and she tries to keep them apart. Apparently her son didn't come back from school yesterday. He still is missing and not answering his phone. She says she's sure he is with M getting into trouble again. She wants M's phone number to call and see if her son is with him. I politely tell her that I'm sure this is a very frustrating experience, but due to company policy, I cannot give away an employee's private information. I recommend calling the local police department and seeing if they can help. I offered to call them with her. I would have happily given M's number to a police officer if they deemed it necessary. She then throws a huge fit. I don't want to call the police. M has gotten my son arrested before. If I call the police, they'll just arrest him when they find him. I just want to call M to see if my son is with him and to make him tell my son to come home. I apologize, as that's the best thing I can think of. Get me your manager. I am the manager, ma'am. Get me the owner then. He is on vacation on the other side of the world. I'm not to call him unless it's an emergency. This is an emergency. Not by his standards. How about I take your phone number and text it to him? He can call you when he wakes up. She starts a string of profanity, but scribbles her number down on a napkin. While I am texting it to my boss, she begins loudly whining to the other customers, who have been patiently waiting this whole time. I can't believe they won't give me his phone number. This is an emergency. My son is missing. Last time he went out with them, they got caught graffitiing a car and were arrested. I know that kid is with my son. Who knows what trouble he's getting him into? Can you believe she won't give me his number? I have texted my boss your number and given him an update on the situation. If he gives me permission to pass on M's number, may I text it to you? Why can't you just give it to me now? As I said, we are not allowed to give out employees. He's not an employee. You said it yourself. He hasn't been with you for a while. We simply do not give out private information of our employees, current or former. She starts another tantrum. This time she actually pushes our cookie display onto the ground. She throws bags of potato chips at me while demanding the phone number. She runs up to the other customers in line and starts asking them to help get the phone number from me. She starts pleading with them for sympathy. I decided this had gone too far and started calling the police. She hears me on the phone with the police and says, "Oh yeah, well I'm gonna call the police on you." She starts fake dialing her phone. "Hello, police? Yes, my son has been kidnapped. I'm at a store and this woman won't give me the phone number of his kidnapper." She proceeds to walk out and away from the store while placing this phone call. I go back to helping my customers. I apologize profusely to them. Most of them thought it was pretty funny. A very confused police officer showed up about 5 minutes later. I told him the story and gave him her phone number and her photo from our security camera. Another customer told the officer which direction she had walked away. He wrote down the information and said he'd follow up if he needed to contact him. My boss responded around midnight, and I updated him on what had happened. He was glad I hadn't given out any personal information. He was sure she was a crazy lady. I never did hear back from that lady or the officer, but it sure made for an interesting experience.